The iconic jazz clubs in our country's history stretch from coast to coast. There was the Both And in the Jazz Workshop in San Francisco, the London House in Chicago, Lennie's on the Turnpike in Boston, Small's Paradise in Harlem. These clubs captured the essence of swing music, the lighting, the intimacy, the visceral feel of collective unison between bandmates and their devoted patrons. Slowly, though, in the age of rock palaces and the switch from acoustic to electric instrumentation, these clubs faded away. One, though, did not. It was in Southern California, but not Los Angeles. You needed to drive out to the sandstone of Hermosa Beach to frequent this club, and so many of the musicians that I have interviewed, from Henry the Skipper Franklin to Gene Perla to Kenny Burrell, played at this venue. Cats like Buster Williams recorded with the Crusaders at this club. So did Elvin Jones, Grant Green, and Joe Henderson. Others, like Ramon Banda, would come as a 17-year-old to watch his hero, Mongo Santamaria, play the Conga Drums. This club was the link from bebop to post-bop, from Chet Baker to Sonny Rollins to Chico Hamilton. Loyalists, smack addicts playing 3 sets a night that left the audience's ears ringing as they headed out into the salty air of the Pacific. My guest today was the artistic director of the Lighthouse All-Stars. It started with Teddy Edwards and Hamp Hawes, passed on to Shelly Manne and Shorty Rogers, and continued with Bud Shank and Max Roach. The fusing of these groups coincided with Lester Koenig's contemporary record label, which gave identities to those who played melodic convention before the digital age. When improvisational swing began to fade in the early 1970s, my guest took over Concerts by the Sea in Redondo Beach, which carried on the traditions of the Lighthouse, featuring Cal Tjader, Jim Horn, Woody Herman, and Dizzy Gillespie. My guest was born in 1917, is an accomplished pianist in his own right, playing on albums with the aforementioned Baker, Stan Kenton, and Miles Davis. He has seen, heard, felt, and contributed to our country's cultural heritage by giving opportunities to those who wanted to further the connection between the known and the unknown. Howard Rumsey, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Oh, well, that was really, really wonderful. Well done. No one ever had a better deal, a better. I'm flabbergasted.
Well,
marvelous. So, did you receive? Have you received any personal? Did Nancy Simonian talk to you?
Yeah, you know what? I just wrote that in my bed last night before I went to sleep. That came out of my heart, Howard. And I wanted to ask you, my first question was,
I beg your pardon?
What is jazz to you? What does that term jazz mean to you?
I'm having a tough time here.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, what does jazz mean to you? What does that word mean to you, jazz?
Wow. Well, I can't. I thought maybe all this was covered. Did you actually receive any message from Nancy Simonian?
No, but I sent her some of the questions.
Well, I don't know how we're going to go about this because electronically I'm not making any kind of sense at all.
What does jazz mean to you?
What does jazz mean to me?
Yes.
Well, I don't know. It captivated me when I was in late grammar school, when Red Norval was around, and consequently, from there it took in a lot of everybody that played was Malice, So in that retrospect, I've been thinking about it this morning. I'm a very fortunate man. I'm couldn't. No one could ask for anything more than I have enjoyed more than I am. And jazz has been I don't know. It's like an engine that's firing on all cylinders all the time, from low speed to high speed, and I just can't describe it any better. I'm afraid because I cannot emphasize the influence that jazz has had on me and for me my whole life.
Was it the music, or was it the people like Chet Baker and Red Norvo and Max Roach? Was it the people or the music or both?
No, it was both. Somehow or other, they managed to meet. We met the public and shook hands, and sat down and played our hearts out for them and with them. And I'm so proud of it, because I live in Newport Beach. I'm no bum. I'm really a very fortunate man, and I consider that to be the story of my life.
Can you talk about playing with Miles Davis?
Well, at the time we worked together, he was staying with me in my house on the Strand in Manhattan Beach, which is right next to Hermosa. And we drove together to work. He rode in my car, and he thought he thought he was misunderstood. He did not make any solution or discovery to all. And if they, in his mind, if they wanted to feel that way, it was okay with him, as long as they didn't try to change him, and as long as they didn't try to change Miles Davis.
You remember playing with Davis? He stayed at your house. Did other musicians stay with you?
No. But see, Miles was a guy that was on the move all the time, and you had to get what you could from him when he was in your presence. And the minute he left your presence, he put you away in his mind, and with eagerness grew that he could find, or the next person. Terribly, he was a lonesome individual that never felt at home with the general public or the people that employed him, or with the owner of any establishment that he was supposed to work in. It seems to be remarkable to me that he did as well as he could.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
As well as he did.
That's right. That's right. It's interesting. There's an album I have, a Lee Morgan album, Live from the Lighthouse, and on the cover he's sitting on the sand underneath the walkway to the club. And the story is that his whole teeth were wired together because the night before the gig he was messing around with someone's wife, and the guy came back and punched him in the face and broke his teeth. And he had to tie his teeth together. And when he was playing with Harold Mayburn, Mickey Roker, Benny Maupin, he was bleeding on the stage. Can you talk about Lee Morgan?
Oh, Lee Morgan. A young guy, unfortunately, thought he was big enough, man enough to have this nice woman for him to make love to. In other words, it was before, just before the public got used to seeing black people close by in Southern California. And that's the bottom line right there.
Tell me how you and Lester Koenig worked together.
Well, we were really part of the UCLA treatment of jazz and the boys, the men that played it. And so it made it, for me, easy to work with him. He knew, he always knew whether he could afford to do what he saw laying there in front of him, of himself. Whereas other jazz promoters sometimes didn't have that financial background, financial help or energy. And Lester Koenig was a very nice man. We all enjoyed being around him and for him and with him.
Did the Lighthouse and Contemporary record label, did you work hand in hand? Because a lot of those Lighthouse All-Star albums are on Contemporary, and at that time the records were the listening medium and the radio. But did you work with Contemporary Records a lot?
Well, I don't seem to be able to answer that question. Could you say it again? Let me hear you say it again, please.
Okay. Lester Koenig, was with Contemporary Records. Contemporary Records made a lot of live recordings at the Lighthouse. So I'm just wondering if you worked in conjunction with Contemporary Records, if he had artists, would they come to play at the Lighthouse?
Yes, but that's because we respected Lester Koenig, or I should say, we felt at home working for him, and he had that power to make that. He had the ability to transmit that feeling and thought in a way that inspired the young players of that period who didn't have a total experience, which meant concerts, clubs, and recordings, and anything that's connected with it, with those subjects.
Right. Did you get a chance? Did Bill Cosby come to the Lighthouse?
Bill Cosby?
Yes.
Bill Cosby never came to the Lighthouse.
He never came to the Lighthouse.
No.
Could you talk about some celebrities of your generation that came to the Lighthouse to see jazz?
Well, I'll see if I can come up with any, but it's a tough. I don't know.
That's okay.
I don't seem to. I know that there's some. We're heading on a very important part of the success, and we'll just let it go at that.
That's fine. I wanted to ask you about another formative character, a guy that I would just like you to tell me a story about, Shelly Manne.
Oh, Shelley. Well, Shelley was a man with all the talent, all the jazz talent any drummer ever had, and on top of it, he lived a happy life. He lived out in the valley and was even I qualified to live there by having a horse to ride when he felt like it. It was big time stuff at that period for any musician to acquire the presence that Shelly Manne projected and made it come true. I felt very fortunate that he worked at the lighthouses for a whole year at least, and I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain how exalted I felt to be able to work with Shelly Manne.
Do you remember the first time Mongo Santamaria came to play at the Lighthouse?
Yes.
Can you talk about that?
Mongo Santamaria. There's I don't know. He never actually didn't mix with anyone except musicians and music. He was he knew he was a unique individual, and he relied on that to keep him working, and he transmitted that feeling to guys like me and other club owners, and he became widespread favorite to all rhythmic players. I can't hardly explain it, except that you just couldn't help but like the man even before he touched the drums.
What did you, when you first saw the Conga drum in jazz, what did you think?
Well, I didn't have any trouble with it. I mean, I thought it worked out swell with jazz, for jazz, and with jazz, and it consequently we were able to work together. And we're not talking about 2 weeks or a month, because sometimes individual players would stay there for a year.
Really? A year?
So the personnel and the music of Lighthouse All-Stars was not my idea. It was the players themselves that made it, and I followed and took advantage of their strongness and transmitted it into the feelings that I knew more about it than I really did. And I am sorry to say that, because jazz has meant so much to me and my life and how it turned out, that I just wouldn't want it any other way, and I refuse to talk about it in any other way. So that pretty much sums it up.
Howard, thank you so much for taking the time, my friend, and I wish you all the best, and thank you for your contributions musically and promoting great music for so many years.
Well, that's really nice of you to call me, because actually I just realized the fact that, I mean, you helped me too by calling me, and that made me feel like I was still in the business. So I want you to remember me like that. You can't. Anything you write about me will be just fine, I'm sure.
Absolutely, my friend, and have a beautiful weekend, and I'll see you down the road.
All right. Thanks for calling me, and you can call me anytime. I'll be happy to talk to you.
Thank you, Howard. Have a good day, brother. This is the Jake Feinberg Show, and we'll see you all in a little bit.